Hi, guys. This is a real life story someone shared with me. Imagine this: you are young, pregnant, broke, and a rich woman opens her doors, gives you food and a bed, even pays you more than you've ever made in your entire life. Sounds like a blessing, right? That's exactly what I thought. Until one night, she looked me in the eye and said something that made my blood run cold. What happened after that almost cost me everything. Stay with me because this is a story of how the woman who saved me tried to take the one thing I love the most, my baby. Hi, I'm Senam, but you can call me Sem. Now, let's dive right in. I was 22, living in a small town and 4 months pregnant. The father, let's call him Ben, vanished the moment he found out. He stopped picking up my calls, stopped answering my texts, just disappeared. At the same time, my mom was very sick, always coughing, but we couldn't afford a proper doctor. I worked at a wholesale shop, carrying heavy boxes all day just to put food on the table. Then one day, I started bleeding. When I rushed to the hospital, the doctor was very clear. No more heavy lifting. You need to rest if you want to keep this baby. When I told my boss, she just stared at me coldly and said, I am sorry, but I need someone who can do the work. She fired me on the spot. I walked home that day feeling like my entire world had collapsed. The job wasn't just my income, it was my lifeline. The next months were hell. I knocked on every door in town, every shop, every restaurant. But as soon as they saw the bump, it was over. I was drowning. One afternoon, my friend visited me. I told her I'd been searching for a job. No luck. That's when she gave me a number. This woman, we call her Mommy. She finds job for house helps in our. Just call her. It's worth a try. Desperation makes you do things you are not proud of. My friend warned me to hide the pregnancy, wear something loose. Once you get the job and they see how hard you work, they will forgive you. So that Saturday, I put on the loosest dress I own, whispered a prayer, and went to meet Mommy. Mommy looked me up and down, and for a second, I thought she could see right through me. But then she just nodded and said she had two openings. The pay, 800 cedis a month plus food. I almost cried. That was more than I've ever earned. But there was a catch. For the first 3 months, I had to give her 40% of my salary. Still, I said yes immediately. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. Before we proceed, you must take a medical test, including a pregnancy test. No one wants a pregnant girl. I froze. I couldn't fake a medical certificate, so I told the truth. I am pregnant. Her face changed instantly. Why did you waste my time? No one will hire you like this. I walked home crushed. 3 weeks later, Mommy called me. Good news, she said sweetly. I found someone who is okay with your situation. 1,200 cedis a month. Free food, free accommodation. I was stunned. This felt like a miracle. My mom, however, was worried. Why would anyone want a pregnant house help? Something doesn't add up. Don't go. But I didn't listen. To me, this was God answering my prayers. When I met my new madam, let's call her Mina, she surprised me. She hugged me. She smiled warmly and she said, we are going to be happy together. Her house was stunning. She gave me my own room, a big guest room with a king-size bed and air condition. She told me to rest, that I could start work tomorrow. Something about it felt off, but I told myself maybe I had just been blessed. Days turned into weeks. Mina never really gave me work to do. Instead, she fed me, took me to private hospitals, bought me vitamins, even paid me full salary. But there was one thing that always made my skin crawl. She constantly touched my belly. One day, as her hand rested there, I saw tears in her eyes. That's when she told me her story. She and her husband had tried for years but never had children. Sadly, it all made sense. Her kindness was about the baby. She loved my child, maybe even more than she loved me. But then she said something that sent shivers down my spine. If you want, I can take your baby and I'll give you a lot of money. When I didn't respond, she laughed loudly and said, I was just joking. But guys, my gut told me she wasn't joking. When I was starting to think I was safe, Ben, the baby's father, suddenly came into my life. Mina encouraged me to give him a chance, but over time, I noticed he was becoming closer to her, too close. One day, he said something that made my blood turn to ice. She's rich and childless. People like her pay a lot for babies. Maybe we should just give her the baby. She will take care of it better than we can. That was the moment I knew this wasn't a coincidence. Mina and Ben were working together. I secretly checked Mina's phone, and my worst fear was confirmed. They had been calling each other for weeks. Before I could process what I discovered, my labor started. Mina rushed me to the hospital, paid for everything, and stayed by my side. When my baby girl was born, all my suspicions faded for a moment. But when we came home, things got worse. Mina started taking my baby from me, moving her crib into her own room, and telling me I was too weak to take care of her. I started getting sick, very sick. The drinks Mina gave me made it worse. I realized if I stayed, I might not survive. One night, weak and terrified, I gathered all my strength, took my baby, and escaped. When my mother saw me, she cried. She said what I already knew. They wanted me gone so they could take my baby. Days later, Mina showed up at my mother's house crying, begging to come back, offering money. But this time, I said no. Guys, to this day, she still calls, and sometimes I wonder, was she truly evil or just desperate? So, guys, what do you think? Should she have accepted the money or give her another chance? Tell me in the comment section, but please be kind. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notification bell so you never miss the next real life story.